Hello. Good afternoon, Sandy Ground. Welcome to Culture on the Road.
We are
here. Oh, we're going to walk and talk. She said we're going to walk and talk. We're here with another culture bearer. I call her Teach. Our teacher, Avanella. Miss Avanella Griffith. And we will be walking down to Uncle Ralph's house.
Yes, you got it right.
Now, I've never heard about Uncle Ralph's house. So I just want to know, first of all, is Uncle Ralph your literal uncle, or is the house named Uncle Ralph's house?
Uncle Ralph is actually my grandfather.
Okay.
Yes, and I grew up in his house. Uncle Ralph is what most people in Sandy Ground and in Anguilla call him, actually. And so my brothers, my sister, and I call him grandfather. I think we're the only people we know who call him grandfather.
Okay, so most people in the community, in the wider Anguilla community,
call him Uncle Ralph.
He was Uncle Ralph.
So it would not have been right to say grandfather house.
Okay, I get you.
So it's actually called Uncle Ralph House. And this is a very small road to go down to Uncle Ralph's house. At the end of it, you would meet Ed Carty's house. But we're going to go down to my grandfather's house. Right here used to be the sweetest almond tree on the island.
Oh.
When I was small. When I was small, that was a tree to
So the almonds were sweet? But wait. What? Okay, what's the difference between what do you call the almond? The seed, the nut, I mean?
Everything.
Or the what was sweet? Was the outside, the green, yellow,
both. Because
juicy
then
part?
you would leave it dry and put it on the tree, and then when you get a whole bucket or bundle full, you go down with a hammer or a good rock, and you put on a pumpkin and you put them on the side, and then you sit down and you eat.
So every part was sweet.
Oh, the inside is what we now know as almonds in the shop.
Right,
but that outside yellow,
That's it for you. Okay, for me, it's actually the nut. For me, it was all about the nut.
I see
didn't
people
really
that chew
much
the nut.
like the
I couldn't do the nut thing.
Really?
But on the inside was the almond part.
Oh, man. I remember being a child, and my grandmother, she would always call us up to come and get our lunch. But before the lunch was ready, we would be out in the yard ponging out almonds.
And climb the tree. We can walk.
And one day she decided, I ain't even gonna call these children. Them should know it is time to come and eat their lunch and go back to school.
So y'all eat almonds for lunch?
Well, we were eating almonds for lunch every day.
And I bet you it never happened again.
We had like 5 minutes before school was supposed to start. We ran inside and tried to gobble up the food and, get back to school.
10, 15 pommes was breakfast. Whole bunch of almonds was lunch, because enough days it had several almond trees in road school, and we would go and eat almonds for lunch. And so that was just, I think that's why we may be a little more healthier.
So tell me what grandfather did. What did Uncle Ralph do? What is the significance of Uncle Ralph's house?
All right, my grandfather was a sailor. He sailed on the Tiny Girl. He sailed on several other boats. He also was one of the first employees of the government port down on Road Bay Port. And so he is special. His house is special because I grew up there in his house. Yes.
So this is Uncle Ralph's house
we
here?
are coming up to Uncle Ralph's house.
I see. Okay.
All right.
So you would have grown up here.
Yes.
And this is why Teacher Avanella can tell us all these Sandy Ground tales. I'm sure you would have heard about her book series called Sandy Ground Tales, and she started the series with a book titled Boatmen.
Yes, Sandy Ground is the best village in Anguilla, by the way.
Now, I have no problem going along with that. Y'all heard me mention earlier that I'm from George Hill, Station Valley, Long Ground. But I'm also from Sandy Ground and proud.
I mean, from here, I would bathe in the sea in the morning, bathe in the sea in the afternoon. I mean, you got the pond. This is the best life.
It is the best life. It is the best life. From 1977 to 1980-81, I lived all the way over on that end of Sandy Ground.
Okay.
And the village is really special to me because my fiancé, he lived the early years of his life on the other end of Sandy Ground. and it's awesome.
Well, you're
No.
7 to 7, I'm 7 to 3. From
Awesome.
7 to 3 to here. So as we come on in, let me
We're seeing a
just
sign that
welcome you.
says Uncle Ralph's house.
Yes,
and I
welcome
can see
aboard.
welcome aboard. And this is something
Ralph's house.
that
is house that is set in the now, because this one has on fruit, I could guess that this is the sour one.
oh,
The
geez,
sweet
that
one,
wasn't
but doesn't have enough fruit. Sweet or sour? Sour tree. It got on a lot, and that's how you know a tree sweet or sour if it got on a lot of fruit. So this is father's house, Uncle Ralph's house, and as you come in, I cannot show everything because it is a showpiece home. And get this, when you come to Uncle Ralph's house, you're gonna scan a QR code. So even though it's a retro house, it's gonna be very modern and hip. You're gonna scan a QR code, you're gonna enter on your own, and you are going to do a scavenger hunt to find all the items that are set inside of Uncle Ralph's house.
Oh,
so
wow.
that's how it's gonna be. And if you get all the items, you're gonna be rewarded with a cake of salt from the sandy ground salt pond. Isn't that a bomb?
Now, when we were walking up, I started cutting you off because I got so excited about the things that I was seeing inside.
Okay.
And it seems, unfortunately, like our technology won't allow us to actually walk inside and so that viewers can see what
Well,
we're
maybe
seeing.
I could bring some stuff outside.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, okay, so
right now, I'm looking at an old-time scale that
Right.
reminded me of my Galaxy days as a child.
Yes,
That
Galaxy.
yeah, you think
Yes,
anything wrong with you think, ain't it, young people?
Listen, my son.
Reminding me of Belto and Duda up the road.
Oh.
This scale.
Oh, we used to buy like the quarter pound of butter up the road in
Hey.
kerosene.
I seen
up
an
there.
old-time
Okay, so let me
radio.
start. You know this thing, I used it as a flower pot right there, but what I used to be.
Something else that I thought I couldn't say.
Patty.
It was a party? Okay.
Right, you Patty, nice name.
Yeah.
All right, so let me get thing for. Oh,
So we're looking
this.
at a ceramic
Start
bowl.
with this.
Okay.
That is.
I gotta sweep the yard. Coconut branch. This is our
So,
broom.
And talking about
Leaves out of the yard in the morning.
kerosene. Now we hear about gas, we hear about diesel, but a lot of young people don't know about kerosene. And this is what our lamps are made of. And then this wick inside, you had to trim it. And then this here, how often you had to clean this one with a brown paper and then the no, not newspaper, but you get
Let
some
me
kind of
tell you.
paper.
Let me tell you, I was traumatized just now. Re-traumatized looking at the kerosene bottle because when I was a little girl, it had some kerosene in an apple juice bottle.
Oh no.
And my brother gave me some.
No.
It wasn't a good look.
No.
No, it was not.
I'm sorry about the trauma.
We gonna move on from the kerosene. It's
Oh, okay.
it's all right. I'll get through it.
But let's see. I hope these don't bring back no more bad memories. Now,
Oh,
this
no,
here,
no.
I don't know if anybody here is, there's probably one person here who might a bill. I would guess about 90 years old. My grandfather died at 90. He was growing sweet potatoes, corn, and all this yard here months before he died. And these are his tools. One on the end, and then this, so it can cut you all kind of ways and other stuff.
So
and
you
this
can
one
chop
here,
and you can
right,
poke and pull
it's
up.
a pigeon peas, especially in rocky ground. You dig the hole and you throw the peas in
And the
just
peas.
like that. Yeah,
And what do you call that?
I don't know.
Okay. Inside, if you look at
Now,
Hey.
this here is probably the most thing
It looks brand new.
It is.
Okay.
But I found it on Amazon. And when I saw it, I was like, that's my radio! That's my radio!
Radios like
my mom and dad had it right in there on that thing. Yes, and so this is an actual, it has to be 1960s something, maybe 50s. But that is the real deal right here in terms of, when I saw it, I sent a picture to my mom. I said, Mom, is this the radio we had? And she bust out laughing, and I know that was a yes.
And so what did you listen to back then? Oh, say, you said 1973?
BBC.
1973, okay, that's pretty recent, right? Too many young people. You want something from the fridge? You see a fridge in there?
Well, BBC I remember listening to. And I grew up hating BBC. Because every 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, that was the thing that used to come over the radio. Just like how it still comes now. And I hated waking up to that. And then as I became older, I loved it. The news was so good. And so I want to encourage everybody to just keep on teaching good things to your children. After a while, they will learn the benefits of them. And so what these are. Father smoked a pipe every single day of his life. And so in Uncle Ralph's house, we have a collection.
Awesome.
Now over there, while I get something else, you can show them the three-legged pot. I'm not sure if your camera guy can. And then there's a drawing bucket that the cistern, you would get water from the cistern. There is a valise there from about 1940.
And for those who don't know, a valise is a suitcase.
Right, a valise. I wanted to bring it up, but it's going to take a little bit of time for me to bring it up.
You see the pot over here and the 3 fire rocks. I have an explanation of how to make those thatch brooms just last year when we interviewed Mr. Richardson down at Best Buy. And so as part of last year's Culture on the Road, we got to learn more about the makings of the thatch brooms. And then what making thatch brooms at the West End basketball court as a challenge in their treasure hunt competition.
All right, this is one of my father's actual polyester suits. Well, this is a jack shirt.
A jack shirt.
And I can't bring that one out, but we have an actual half press. Our older people used to call it a press, the closet. But it's a half, where you have dressing table on one side, and then half of the half press on one side. Clothes are in that on the plate that we.
No,
the valleys.
Was it of you to preserve all his stuff?
No, not intentional. It just happened not very long, and him and mom took good care of what he had.
And you said he passed away at night. Yes.
Now, if you go on any flight today, you're already overweight with this. Yeah? You're already overweight.
I remember these.
This here is heavy, not indestructible, this is. Yes? And inside we have...
Can we take a look inside the valise suitcase?
Hope nothing in there.
Man,
inside,
when you say that, you get me free. No, I done with that.
Inside we have... What is a 50s? It's an iron bed.
He would have been born and raised in Sandy Ground, grew up here all his life?
Fully. He would tell me that these hills, they would plant corn, peas, pumpkins, everything over from this end of the hill over to the other side. They would ship stuff to St. Bart's, Guadeloupe, Martinique. Anguilla exported lots and lots of different vegetables to those islands. And he said, it's only now that because we stopped planting them that these trees have grown up. But the hillsides were full with all kind of provisions from this side over to the next side of it. And so on the bed, the patchwork that you're seeing, a lot of those, I can tell you which dresses are mine from back then.
Oh, wow.
So you never...
Who would have made these patchwork
My mom made this first one.
Nice.
And we have leaning over on the bed right there, that is true to the house. My grandfather would have had that from maybe the 60s and 70s. So like when your clothes got worn out, well, you only had like 2 dresses anyway. One for this Sunday and the next one for the next Sunday, and you rotate it. And when those got a hole in them, you cut them and you put all the pieces that you were saving together and you made a bedspread because you couldn't afford bedspreads.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me, is Uncle Ralph's house already open for people to come and take on this challenge and explore, locals and tourists alike?
Not yet. I'm waiting until I get vacation from school.
So tell me when we're looking at. Tell me when we're looking at.
We're looking at any time after the 12th in terms of a soft opening, but then fully in January, we are going to do the scavenger hunt, get up and get ready. So between now and January, people can come and look, but then we'll get the scavenger hunt and all the internet and everything set and ready. And I'm not sure if you can pan it.
That's tomorrow next day. You said it as if, oh, it's a long time.
Well, it's because it's been a long time planning
process. How long has it been?
Well, Sandy Ground Tales book has been something in me, in my heart for a long time. So the book was launched. We also had this open in June in terms of showcasing it. So I started working on it piece by piece, maybe from January, but I was begging my mom and my cousins for like probably a year or 2 years before they eventually said, you know what, go ahead. Yes. And what else can I tell you? Well, there's lots of stuff inside.
Yeah, seeing
there's a
pedal for a sewing machine.
Right, the sing-up sewing machine.
Yeah.
There's lots of other stuff. Please go ahead and take a look.
This is awesome, but we gotta keep chatting.
Right.
So you gotta keep talking.
Yes, I'm gonna keep. Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Right, so if you follow the path down to there, that's where we will go to the beach, and right down there, loaded with fish pots and everything else. And what we have, as soon as you go inside, is a lot of dry coconuts, because with dry coconuts, you used to make a lot of coconut tart. And so we have several of these dry coconuts on the inside to keep, and I'll bring you one other too. Yes. And so this here is a big, big sledgehammer. This is one of the things my grandfather would use in his work, and this piece of it is there as well. And let me carry a picture just in case. For persons who do not,
to make sure that they had no wood
for persons who do not know, my grandfather is or was. This is a little picture of him that's on the inside of the house. Glass is broken, but we're gonna get that all fixed up. And so we're inviting people to come on down to Uncle Ralph's house. And the idea is to have a showpiece house. I don't like a museum because a museum doesn't fit it right. So it's a showpiece home. It's 2 rooms in the house. Now, it's called a best house. It's called a best house for several reasons. Well, for one reason. In the 1960s, when Hurricane Donna came, it destroyed a lot of homes in Anguilla. And my grandfather's house was here, and it destroyed it. And then Bradshaw sent down a gentleman to look at the damage and to give a certain amount of money to the Anguillians who lost their homes to build a specific house. And the house had to have 2 rooms, and it had to be a pitched roof. This piece over here we added on as a bathroom later because there are no bathrooms. Farah, I have to point to you to show you where the latrine is. And you remember the latrine, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the latrine is somewhere down there, but we ain't gonna go there.
Okay.
You got to save, you can't give everything. And so the gentleman who gave people the money to build these 2-room houses, his name was Mr. Samuel Best. And so, you know, Anguillians, they like to give people nicknames. And so they start telling people, oh, you're living in a best house. And so that's how, if you go around Anguilla, you'll see a lot of these little houses, 2 rooms with this pitch roof. And that's because they were given, money was given to build them specifically. Here.
After Hurricane Donna?
Correct. Yes. Okay. Yes, Hurricane Donna was 1960. Yes. And this house was built around 61. Okay. And so best house came because the man who gave them the money was called a best house. I think in Long Run, in those areas, they call them Bradshaw houses. Something like that. But down this area. Right. Now, when you come to Sandy Ground Tales house, you can get lots of different stuff.
Yeah, I forgot the name of these characters here. Introduce them.
Thank you. So let me introduce you to the mascots of Sandy Ground Tales. First of all, this is Sandy. She is our puffer fish. This is Sandy. She is our mascot. Our second mascot is Ground. And we have a third mascot, Tails. Now, Tails is a lobster, but his tail is being repaired, so he is at home. However, since our launch, Sandy has been quite busy, and she has made some offspring. And her offspring are many, and they are for sale. And so when you come to Sandy Ground Tales, Uncle Ralph's house, you can purchase products of Sandy Ground Tales. You can get Sandy's offspring. You can get our book. You can get our masks, which are very comfortable with a filter in it. You can get keychains and lots of other products at Sandy Ground Tales, Uncle Ralph's house on sale. So that's another place you can come and get our products.
That's
yes,
right.
Ma'am.
And I'm so happy. Just to wrap it up, I just want to talk a little bit more about Sandy Ground Tales.
Okay.
This book, the first in the series, is called Boatmen. It is a wonderful story. It is actually featuring the gentleman that we're going to speak to right next, right after this,
okay.
Mr. David Carty. It is featuring his work and his boat business, Rebel Marine, as well as Garfield, Gary, Gotcha, Richardson, and his boating story.
Yes.
So, you definitely have to get yourself a copy of this book. It is great for all ages, but children especially love it. My daughter loves her copy, and, I just want to promote it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But we want to thank you so much, Avanella Griffith, Teacher Sarah Sanderdot, Teacher Avanella, for speaking with us and sharing with us a little bit about your Sandy Ground Tales.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us at Culture on the Road. We want to say thanks so much to Teacher Avanella, all the members of the Sandy Ground community, and everyone for joining us here today.
Best village in Anguilla, Sandy Ground.
Whoop, whoop. That's right. Next up, we're just going to go right around the corner of the pond and speak with Mr. David Carty so that we could get a good view of the pond in the background. And we're going to be talking about salt picking and all the history of Sandy Ground, the pump house and all of that. So at this time, we can talk about the pump without the house that it is now. But before, it was the pump house, a fully operational station. Very crucial. One. Whenever you're ready. All right, we are live. Welcome back to Culture on the Road. I want to take some time and say thanks so much to our sponsors. Thanks so much. And Culture under the Ministry of Social Development is hosting Culture on the Road as part of Malliouhana Fest. We're having a great time today. It is filled, packed, jam-packed with edutainment all day. And we are now going to speak to one of the boatmen that we just spoke about over there at Uncle Ralph's house, a best house. All right, good afternoon and welcome to Culture on the Road, Mr. David Carty. He's a local historian, a member of the Sandy Ground North Hill community. As I mentioned, he is a boatman. He's going to be talking to us today about some of the history and culture of Sandy Ground, the Salt Pond, and the pump house in particular. So welcome again, Mr. Carty. Thank you for joining us. All right, we're just going to... One. Mr. Carty's mic is on. One. All right, there you go.
All right, thanks, Barrow. So you wanted to talk a little bit about the Salt Pond. It's a pity we couldn't go by the pump house, which is right over there, which unfortunately was destroyed in Hurricane Irma.
Yes.
And that spot is central to the whole development of the Salt Pond. What's kind of cool about this, even if you just look at the pond, is how important this has been to Anguilla for hundreds of years. At a time when Anguilla was a dirt poor island and what is called a marginal colony, which means that it was never a colony that could make any money for the European powers. The salt pond became the mainstay because salt was necessary for the plantation economies in the Southern Caribbean, St. Kitts, Barbados, Antigua, all the rest of them. That's why St. Martin and Anguilla became prime movers of salt.
And what exactly were they down there?
So they used salt on the plantations, animals, cows, mules, horses. So
Really?
Oh yeah.
How? Why? To do what with?
The salt, animals lick. They lick salt. Salt is a animals were the prime mover, apart from slaves, of course, in moving machinery and etc. So the colonials needed a lot of salt.
Now I'm trying to look around at the crew behind us to see if anyone else was aware of this. I don't want to seem completely ignorant, but I was never aware about aware of animals needing salt to lick the salt.
You see, in those days, if you turn the clock back 100, 150 years, is hundreds of cattle, hundreds of horses, and a whole lot of mules, right? So you needed that salt. Yeah.
What would it do to their bodies? What would it do? Maybe I'm delving too deep into the wrong area just because I'm uneducated about it. Maybe let's focus on Anguilla and the salt, and so we sent to St. Kitts and the islands further down the Caribbean.
Of course, it was also used for human consumption.
Yes.
Right, especially for corning stuff, whether it's fish, especially pork, even up to the late 20th century, whenever the schooners used to leave here from Anguilla. If they went on dock for any time, they would kill a pig and corn a pig with salt as ready food. You didn't have to put it in a fridge. These vessels didn't have any refrigeration, so you'd have to use it for that.
Right, so corning would preserve the meat of the animals that were butchered in times before refrigerators.
Right, all over the island, and especially for the boats, for the schooners, Santo Domingo, going up and down the islands, etc. So salt became, and always was, a key part of Anguilla's history. And this pond, along with the pond up in East End, the Long Pond, the West End Pond that was a little bit in its rendezvous, became places where we could grow salt. Now what's cool about this one, which is always the biggest one, is that if you look down here, if the camera can shoot where they had the present canal, what the old fellas used to do was every January or February, they would use gravity feed. They would cut a channel through the beach and they would let in salt raw salt water into this pond. You see this? You notice there are 3 ponds?
It's
There's
separated,
one,
yes.
and then you see the long dam? If you could shoot the long dam, that's very important. So what they used to do, they used to let in the raw salt water into here,
The first one
and they would let it settle. This is called a settling pond.
in January.
In January, February, March, right through. They would have to mine the high tide and low tide, so they would have to sleep on the beach. And when the tide came right up, they would open the canal and the water would flow in. And when the tide would go back out, they would close the beach so that the water wouldn't
The water
get back
doesn't
out.
get back out,
Right.
okay.
But then all the seaweeds and the little animals and so on would settle into this. And then when this pond was really full, to the capacity it could because of gravity, then they would open right here and let the pure salt water into this pond. And then by a process of evaporation with the wind and the sun, salt crystals will form on the top of the surface of the pond and then sink onto the mud. Now that pond is only about 16, 18 inches deep, depending on how much rain had fallen.
Okay.
And then they would dig up the salt with their hands and float them where to the pump house used to be, in flats. If you go to the pump house now, you will still see sunken flats underwater right there where the concrete ramp used to be.
Okay.
But what's cool about this is that for hundreds of years, and all the dams are now eroded and disappearing, unfortunately. But they had to contain fresh water from the surrounding hills, because whenever it rained and rained heavily, the rain would wash down the sides of the hills and into the pond, and that would kill the salt.
So how would they contain it?
So if you look carefully, if you drive around the southern side of the pond, you will see another dam that goes right around the pond. You can see it up here too, called the ring dam. And that ring dam would catch the fresh water, and then they would try and pump it out into the sea before it contaminated the fresh salt water.
And back in those days, how would they be pumping water from all across here to the sea?
Again, they would use gravity, and they would use hand pumps like they use on the schooners. But this is a crucial part of Anguilla's history for more than just reasons of making salt and shipping it to other islands. This is where boat racing started, believe it or not. Because this is where the Nova Scotia schooners came to get salt to take back to Nova Scotia to corn the codfish that they sold all through the Caribbean. And the Nova Scotians who came to Anguilla and anchored in Road Bay to get salt from this pond were the people who were able to bring all the technology that we needed to build schooners and sloops and all the rest of that. And it is from there that our schooner fleet developed magnificently in the early 20th century, and it's from there that the whole boat racing tradition started too.
We always talk about the fact that people went to the other islands to work and then come back, but you're taking us even further back. And how far before that?
Well, this was the only mainstay for a desperately poor, marginal colony for nearly 200 years. If you look at the atrocious records of Anguilla's poverty, especially in the 18th and 17th century, you will see continuous mention of our ponds and salt, and how the central government or the imperial government would have to give concessions and allow free trade. In other words, let any country in the world come to Anguilla to buy salt, because, of course, in those days, the imperial powers didn't let other imperial powers trade with their colonies.
That's all we had.
But that's all we had.
Yeah.
And, it's a symbol of poverty. In many ways, it is a symbol of hard work. But I'll tell you another very interesting part of our history, is that in the time of slavery, at 2 o'clock, when they were reaping the pond, they would ring a bell, and slaves could pick salt for their own use, free of charge. Now that is weird and needs an in-depth understanding, because if you look at British colonial history in India in 1933, long after slavery was abolished in the Caribbean, you find the British holding a monopoly on salt in India and refusing even to allow Indians to go pick salt from the beaches, right? Look at the great salt march that was headed by Mahatma Gandhi. These are some weird differences and peculiarities in the historical record. And
so from 2 p.m. the
from 2
enslaved
p.m.
people until what time were
Well,
able to pick their own salt for their
the-
personal use?
well, I don't know what time
And that wasn't every day though.
Sorry?
That wasn't every day of the week.
I don't know. The records don't show that,
Okay.
but the records say that at 2 p.m. a bell would ring and slaves could pick salt for their own use. Now,
Does
what?
it say how many people over the years were involved in the salt?
Not really,
business?
but if you think about it, Angola's population was 2, 3, 4,000, maybe getting up to 5,000. And, most people were involved either in boat building, farming, emigration, and salt. But again, salt was only for like a month or 2 or 6 weeks in the year.
And
Apart from those people who had to manage it, let in the water, make sure the
Oh.
water came in right. and all
Okay,
stuff.
that was your own work.
Yeah.
So, what was the exact year that it all ended? The
It ended
exportation of salt from Angola.
after, of course, plantations were out and the animals were no longer an issue, and people had fine salt that you could buy, much easier. They did develop a business by sending salt to Trinidad to help with the oil industry, where the wells in the oil wells in Trinidad, the oil was so thick that it was very hard to pump the oil out. So they found that if they turned to brine, which is very, very, very salt water, it would liquefy the oil and allow it to be pumped. So actually,